Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Alt? Here. Mr. Beistel? Here. Mr. Calero?
Here.
Mrs. Love? Here. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski? Mrs. Rhodes? Here. Mrs. Shipley? Here. Mr. Benz?
Here. Let the record show that Mr. Polakowski contacted me about an hour ago to indicate they had a death in the family and he wouldn't be able to attend. Citizens' comments, please. And we have no comment cards, sir. No minutes or business and finance. New business, final budget. It is recommended that the board adopt the final budget with expenditures of $28,515,720 plus revenue, and that would be revenues of $26,852,608, $26,852,683, and a fund balance of $1,666,000. I can't speak this evening. $1,663,037. This sets the millage at 72.41 mils for Westmoreland County and 14.3876 mils for Fayette County. Need a motion, please? Motion by Mr. Calero. We need a second. Is that Mr. Beistel? Questions or comments, discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Calero?
Yes.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley? Yes. Mr. Alt?
Can't keep spending more than we're making. No.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes. Motion passes 7-1, and 1 absent. Continuing taxes for the 2015-16 fiscal year. It's recommended that the board approve the continuation of all taxes heretofore levied by the school district of Southmoreland in full force and effect, including those under Act 511, the Local Tax Enabling Act, 53 PS Statute 6901 et sec, earned income tax according to Act 511 at 1/2%, emergency and municipal tax according to Act 511 at $5 per person, and real estate transfer tax according to Act 511 at 1/2%. Need a motion, please? Motion by Mr. Miller, second. Second by Mr. Calero. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Calero?
Yes.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley? Yes. Mr. Benz?
Yes, motion passes 8-0 with 1 absent. Establishment of real estate taxation for the 2015-16 fiscal year. It is recommended that the board adopt the following real estate taxes in accordance with Section 627 of the School Code of 1949 as amended. A tax of 72.41 mils upon all real estate subject to taxation within the Westmoreland County in the Southmoreland School District. The rate of taxation in dollars and cents on each $100 of assessed valuation of taxable property is $7.241. Tax of 14.3876 mils upon all real estate subject to taxation within Fayette County. In the Southmoreland School District, the rate of taxation in dollars and cents on each $100 of assessed valuation of taxable property is $1.438. The real estate taxes shall be due and payable as follows: 2% discount when paid from August 1 to September 30, 2015. Face value when paid from October 1 to November 29, 2015. 10% penalty when paid on December 1st, 2015 and thereafter. Need a motion, please? Motion by Mrs. Rhodes, second. Second by Mrs. Shipley. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Calero?
Yes.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley? Yes. Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes, motion passes 8-0 with 1 absent. School property taxes and installments. It is recommended that the board direct the collection of installment payments of real estate taxes to be made by the district's real estate tax collectors and their successors in office, who shall set forth on all notices regarding the payment of school real property taxes in 3 equal installments, and the dates September 30, 2015, October 31, 2015, and November 30, 2015, on which such payments are due, to set forth on the tax notice sent to approved homestead and farmstead property owners. Need a motion, please?
Motion by Mrs. Shipley, second. Second by Mr. Calero. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Love? Yes. Mr. Miller? Yes. Mrs. Rhodes? Yes. Mrs. Shipley? Yes. Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel? Mr. Calero?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes, motion passes 8-0 with one absent. Homestead Farmstead Exclusion Resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors, be it resolved by the Southmoreland Board of Directors that homestead and farmstead exclusion real estate tax assessment reductions are authorized for the school year beginning July 1, 2015, under the provisions of the Homestead Property Exclusion Program Act, part of Act 50 of 1998, and the Taxpayer Relief Act, Act 1 of 2006, pursuant to the resolution which is attached to the minutes. It is recommended that the Board approve the amounts available for approved homestead and approved farmstead real estate tax reduction for the school year beginning July 1, 2015.
Need a motion, please? Motion by Mr. Beistel, second. Second by Mrs. Shipley. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Miller? Yes. Mrs. Rhodes? Yes. Mrs. Shipley? Yes. Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel? Mr. Calero?
Yes.
Mrs. Love? Mr. Benz?
Yes, motion passes 8-0 with one absent. Source for teachers.
And we're recommending that this item be tabled pending further legal research.
Okay, need a motion to recess to executive session for personnel.
You vote to table?
Voice vote.
Yeah.
Need a motion, a second for tabling source for teachers?
I move we table the source for.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 8-0 with one absent. Need a motion to recess to executive session for personnel. Motion by Mrs. Rhodes, second. Second by Mr. Miller. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Second by Mr. Beistel. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Personnel, middle school guidance counselor.
It's recommended that the Board approve Heather Meyer as the middle school guidance counselor at step M1 as per the agreement between the Southmoreland School District and the Southmoreland Education Association.
Need a motion, please? Motion by Mrs. Shipley, second. Second by Mr. Miller. Questions?
Must be an address on this plan.
Yeah, she lives on Timber Trail Drive in Greensburg.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Rhodes? Yes. Mrs. Shipley? Yes. Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel? Mr. Calero?
Yes.
Mrs. Love? Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes, motion passes 8-0 with one absent.
Just one more quick thing. I put a picture in front of each of you. This is the, obviously, it's the gym floor. We had our pre-construction meeting Thursday afternoon, but before the pre-construction meeting started, we went up and looked at the progress. They had the foam pad laid, and they had the 2 layers of plywood already laid. This morning, the wood arrived, and this is how far they have gotten. We kind of caught a lucky break here this time. That doesn't happen often to us, but this time it did. They had another job scheduled, and unfortunately for that client, they developed a roof leak. So the company was unable to proceed with the replacement of the floor until the roof leak was fixed. Meanwhile, they had our job, and they were unable to proceed with our project until the wood was ordered and fabricated. But they just happened to have all this wood that was ordered for this other project, so they just had it shipped here because it was already fabricated, and then that way they can get our project done and moved along, and then they'll order new wood. But it's the exact same wood, same grade, same specifications, everything else. In talking with the gentleman on Thursday, we said you need to be out of here by August 17th, because that's when everything starts. He said, with any luck, we'll be out of here by July 4th. So they're making very, very nice progress. Was impressed with the professionalism of the crew, and the one gentleman especially seems to be their lead. But he has, I think it's called rolled goods. It's kind of like vinyl flooring that they're gonna make little ramps, because obviously this is gonna be a little bit higher, so there'll be little ramps that go down to hall level. They have plans for shortening up the doors. I believe the baskets have already been raised to height, So they're making just some amazing progress. Very pleased with how that's all going.
Jack, is the floor already pre-finished, or do they finish it after?
It's not finished. They'll finish it after it's down, and they'll paint it. We actually asked them to do something a little bit different with the lettering so that it's a little more visible. Yeah. There'll be a Scotty logo in the center, similar to what a football field has. Just a little progress report for you. That's all I have.
Citizens' comments? Anything from the board? Need a motion to adjourn to executive session? For personnel? For person?
Yes,
No?
personnel.
Motion by Mr. Calero, second. Second by Mrs. Rhodes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?